Hey guys, Jeremy here from Level Up Roadcraft in Katoomba. I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you're all doing your hours. On today's show, we're going to be having a look at a bit of footage I took going from Katoomba all the way into Circular Quay. It's on a time lapse, but it's really good because it covers mountains type driving, country driving, highway driving and city driving, and the slightly different approaches you've got to take and some of the things you've got to watch out for in those different types of environments because they are very different roads. So without further ado, let's jump on back up into the studio and jump on into the episode. So for those playing along at home, we are discussing lessons 18 and 19 in the New South Wales Learner Driver Logbook. Now, before driving on any of these types of roads, it's important to ensure that you have a couple of things. First is good car control, smooth, easygoing. Second, good scanning skills, looking up ahead. Remember, you control your space and then you control your speed. And the third is the ability to observe the relationship between speed and distance. There's a difference between the space you need at 50k an hour and the space you need at 100k an hour. So when we use the word country driving, it's quite ambiguous. So let's split this into two types of driving. We have the open road, and then we have regional highways. Now, I'm dedicating an entire video to open road in the future, so remember to hit the subscribe button and the bell to catch that one. But both do have higher issues of environmental problems that you're going to face, and you're not going to face these problems on a motorway. Some of these issues are black ice, snow, flooding, and animal strikes. If you're leaving Sydney and moving up the west up the M4, you'll find that these issues increase significantly from Katoomba westward. And I've seen far too many tourists than I care to remember with their cars on their lid because they weren't paying attention. When you're driving along a regional highway, you'll often find it to be a dual carriageway or two lanes on your side of the road with a medium strip. Drivers who live in the city are at much higher risk on these roads because they aren't used to the environmental factors that these roads bring. It's really important that you have a higher level of observation of the road surface and the areas beside the road in these cases. So along with these roads also comes fatigue. Often people are pushing and they're just driving too far and too long without a break, and they become tired on these roads, leading to an increase of overturned vehicles and driving off the corners onto the embankments. So next we've got motorways. Motorways are typically 3 or more lanes with speeds above 100 kilometers an hour. This is something you'll encounter regularly as a driver. But remember, a learner can only do 90 kilometers an hour regardless of the speed limit. And P-platers, you guys have a restriction as well, so stick to that speed limit. You need to maintain the 3-second gap on these freeways, at least. And this is due to the higher speeds. And because of the higher speeds, the gap is going to look observably larger between you and the car that you're following than it would at 50 kilometers an hour. So on a freeway or a motorway, stay in the left-hand lane, or at worst, the center lane, okay? Because let's face it, sometimes the left-hand lane is going to become congested and block up really quickly because the off-ramp that everyone is taking, for example, when you're driving into Parramatta, everyone takes that off-ramp and the congestion becomes a problem. So the center lane can be very useful for this. But there is nothing worse than that muppet who sits in the right-hand lane, not paying attention, significantly under the speed limit, causing others to pass them on the left-hand side, which is more dangerous when you've got to go past someone on the left-hand side because no one head checks. Next, we have the connecting roads, which we're looking at now between the freeways and the city. These are their own beast. They include tunnels, bus lanes, toll booths, variable speed zones, and these variable speed zones will have electronic signs. So you can't just rely on the normal signs, you've got to be reading the electronic signs as well. You need to be familiar with all these things before driving on these roads, or you're going to find yourself very overloaded. If you live in a regional area, you may be in for a shock at how many signs there are to actually follow. Now, navigation can become trickier too. You need to be thinking ahead, on these roads. You need to be getting yourself into position before your off-ramp or your turn. Again, there's nothing worse than the muppet who cuts across 3 lanes to make their exit, and look, if you miss an exit, just wait for the next one. There's nothing wrong with being late and saying, oh, I couldn't get to the exit, it was all blocked up and I had to divert a bit. It's much better than causing a 5-car pile-up on, the Glebe Island Bridge, for example, just because you couldn't be a few minutes late. So now we reach the city. Filled with the most arrogant drivers with the lowest level of patience and tolerance, you need to stay calm. With the highest density of pedestrians and cyclists, as well as delivery drivers, taxis, buses and bus lanes, you got your work cut out for you. Maintaining a 3-second gap can almost seem impossible, but you still got to strive for it. Remember, at lower speeds, you're going to be closer to the car in front because 3 seconds at 20k an hour is a lot less distance than 3 seconds at 100 kilometers an hour. And on these roads, we've got one-way roads, especially in the city, and no turn signs. And this can make navigation trickier. So you have to be flexible sometimes. And remember that your GPS is not perfect. So pay attention to where you're going and avoid driving like a robot and just going where the machine tells you. You will likely end up in a significant problem. So, my name's Jeremy from Level Up Roadcraft in Katoomba. I hope you remember these tips and tricks. They're just simple things you can remember. And until next time, stay calm, pay attention, and stay safe.